Hello and welcome to Spiritual Research Network. My name is Chris Lawson and I'm the director of SRN. I want to share with you today a little bit about spiritual abuse. And I would just like to ask you, have you ever been spiritually abused? What does that mean, to be spiritually abused? Well, it has to do with, in the context of any type of spirituality, whether it's Christian or not, people putting heavy-handed authoritarian leadership over you, coercion, gaslighting, mind control, shaming, out loud shaming, physical abuse, sexual abuse, all within a spiritual context. Well, I'll tell you what, we have a little booklet. It's called the Spiritual Abuse Questionnaire. Just read the simple questions, and at the end of the question, there's just like a yes and no that you can circle, yes or no. And this little booklet goes through different topics that you would come across in any type of spiritual setting, church, a spiritual movement, whatever. And so you go through this questionnaire, and at the end of it, you can just look back and say, well, yeah, I'm being abused here, or I'm not being abused here. And it's one of those things that you can read on your own. You can do this in the privacy of your own environment or home, in your car, wherever. You just read through it and say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And at the end of it, you're going to have a big wake-up call if you're in a context spiritually where you're being abused. Now, did I just come up with this on my own? Well, yeah, a lot of it I did. But there are a lot of references and resources and things I looked at as well. Because years ago, I was actually assist pastoring a Christian church, and then we went in the mission field. And we were overseas, and I was reaching out to people who've been abused in other churches, and I was reading books on cult dynamics and the dangers of cults, and the dynamics that function within a cultic group, whether it's Christian or not. And I began to realize myself, wow, even though I've been in a solid Christian church, I've been under heavy-handed leadership, and I experienced a lot of the things that I actually put into that little pamphlet, the questionnaire. So, there's a whole nother dynamic of this is if you've been abused and you're leaving a church or considering leaving a church, how do you feel? What do you go through? What's it like after you leave? I'll just be real blunt. I lost a lot of friends. I had to give up a lot of friends. I had to give up social media stuff, various things. We had to move back across the planet after 4 years in the mission field, because our church just basically said, dump your discernment ministry or we'll redirect your mission support. And here I've had over 50 letters and contacts from pastors and missionaries around the world saying, what you're doing in Edinburgh, Scotland is awesome. Do the discernment ministry, biblical discernment ministry, plant the church. People need both, because that's how you pioneer a brand new Christian fellowship, is you have to understand the dynamics of the false teachings that are out there in the world, and you got to present the proper biblical gospel from the scripture perspective. Well, the pressure's put on us to just throw out half of this. Well, I just resigned. I said, I'm done with that. I'm not going to do that. So, I lost friends. I lost just an insurmountable amount of stuff in my life of suffering. And it took years to recover from this. Aside from that, monetarily, not ministry-wise, money-wise, yeah, I lost a lot of that because of mission support was just stripped out from underneath us. But I lost a lot of financial resources that I had accumulated through the years. And it was all gone. And then we moved, and then I couldn't get a job because I gave up my college education to plant a church and a movement. And I thought, this is what I'll be doing for the rest of my life as a pastor. And it's like, and everything's just literally ripped out from underneath you. And then what do you do? Where do you go? So I started a landscaping business because I didn't have any money, and the church wasn't helping us. They gave us a meager $1,000 to move back from the United Kingdom to the U.S., and gave us some bags of groceries and said, here, have fun, whatever. I'm like, where do I go? What do I do? I lost my friends, my support. and it's like I got a family to feed, start a landscaping business, and then I ruined my back, disabled for 2.5 years, sinking in debt. And it's like, wow, well, I guess this is just what I got to do as a Christian, just pick up and go forward. That's what we did. And you know what? Jesus was with us through it all, the real Jesus. I'm not talking about the hyper-faith Jesus or the legalistic Jesus, just, the God of all grace Jesus that we find in Scripture. And so, these are just different dynamics of stuff that people go through all the time. I've gotten phone calls from people who have been abused in churches or cults, and they're suicidal, and they want to kill themselves. I've gotten phone calls from people who, left a certain movement I used to be with, and they said, I'll never step foot in church as long as I live. Those people are just evil. And you find out the details, and you're like, wow, I can't even believe that guy was doing that, as a leader in the church and the whole thing. So, anyway, all that being said, it's just like, some of you out there, you're just hurting. Maybe today you got on my website and you're thinking, I'm suicidal. I feel depressed. I'm going to kill myself. I got post-traumatic stress disorder because I just left the church or a group or a movement. Then you've come to find out it's a cult, and all the dynamics of that and everything. So, again, this video is just simply to just say, hey, there are resources out there. There are people out there. There's a God in heaven who loves you, and he's gracious, and he can help you and get you back up on your feet. Maybe you can't even receive that right now because you're so hurt. But anyway, listen, if you see the resource that we have, the Spiritual Abuse Questionnaire, you want to read the questionnaire or you want to give it to somebody else, a family member or a loved one, and they won't read it because it has, published by this or that, or it has my name on it. Or, well, we'll do what we have to do to send you a generic copy, or at least part of it or something, so that they can go through it themselves, without any church affiliation or publication affiliation or anything like that. It's a matter of finding out what's going on, the root cause of the problem, and dealing with it. If you have to get away from the church, the group, the leaders, in order to get your life back in order, well, then that's what you have to do. You just have to do it. You got to make the decision to do it. And there are plenty of people out there who can help and support. It's just a matter of finding the right ones. So anyway, all that being said, you know what? It just, my heart breaks for people who are going through the throes of anxiety and the ups and downs and the trauma and the crying and the fear and the lack of being able to just even process, mentally, like, how do I escape this situation? Because that's essentially what it is. It's, you've been abused. You're troubled in your heart and mind. You're depressed, and you need freedom. You need to find freedom, and to be able to practically do those things where you can get back to just a normal life. Where your emotions aren't going up and down, and every day. And so anyway, that's a little bit about the Spiritual Abuse Questionnaire. There's plenty of resources on the internet. You don't have to go to our website to find them. There's plenty out there, but you do need to find them, and you need help. So, if you need help, contact us. We'll pray for you, and we'll try to give you some direction. Sometimes people ask me, "What do you do for work?" I say, well, I help people think for themselves. And essentially that's it. It's just like going back to the root of the problem and find out what's the deal, and finding out and moving on, because that's where the healing is. Ultimately it's in Jesus, the real Jesus of the Bible. But if you can't grasp that, if you've been hurt by different problematic false teachings about Jesus, well, just focus right now on you escaping from the abusive situation that you're in and getting to a place of health and comfort and normalcy and balance. So thanks for taking the time to watch. God bless.